Hello, everyone. My name is Richard, though these days I answer to another name as well. What I'm about to share with you is something I've kept hidden for most of my 63 years on this earth. It's a story about secrets, shame, discovery, and ultimately, freedom. But more than anything, it's a story about the woman who changed everything. The woman who took control when I couldn't. The woman who saw the real me when I was too afraid to look in the mirror. This isn't easy to talk about even now. My hands are actually shaking a bit as I sit here recording this. But I've learned that the stories we're most afraid to tell are often the ones that need to be heard the most. So bear with me. This is going to take some time, and there are parts that still make me emotional. But I promise you, if you've ever felt like you were living two lives, if you've ever hidden a part of yourself so deep that you almost forgot it existed, then maybe something in my story will resonate with you. Let me start at the beginning. Not the very beginning, because honestly, I don't remember the first time I felt different. It's like asking someone when they first knew they loved music or preferred chocolate to vanilla. Some things are just woven into who you are from the start. But I remember the first time I acted on those feelings. I was 7 years old. My mother had 3 sisters, and they would visit our house every Sunday after church. I was the only boy among my cousins at that age. 7 girls and me. I spent those Sunday afternoons listening to them talk about dresses and hair and things I didn't understand, but desperately wanted to. My Aunt Margaret, the youngest of my mother's sisters, was particularly fashionable. She wore these beautiful flowing skirts that seemed to dance when she walked. I was mesmerized. One Sunday, everyone was in the backyard. My father was grilling, the women were setting up the picnic table, and the kids were playing some game I had no interest in. I slipped back into the house, supposedly to use the bathroom. But I didn't go to the bathroom. I went to the guest room where Aunt Margaret had left her purse and a cardigan sweater. I still remember the feeling of that cardigan against my skin. It was soft, softer than anything I owned. It was lavender-colored with pearl buttons. I put it on and looked at myself in the mirror, hanging on the back of the guest room door. For the first time in my young life, I felt like I was looking at someone I recognized. Someone who made sense. I stood there for maybe 2 minutes, but it felt like hours. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs and panic set in. I ripped off the cardigan, tried to fold it the way it had been, failed miserably, and ran out of the room. My aunt never said anything about finding her sweater in disarray, but I lived in fear for weeks that she knew. That they all knew. That was the first time, but it wasn't the last. Throughout my childhood, I found ways to explore this hidden part of myself. A scarf left in the coat closet. My mother's old nightgown in the donation bag. Once, during a family vacation, I spent an entire evening wearing my older cousin's abandoned sundress while everyone else was at the beach. I was 12 then, and that was the first time I felt genuine happiness connected to this secret. But I also felt crushing shame. This was the 1960s in a small town in Pennsylvania where men were men and anything different was wrong. Dangerous. My father worked at the steel mill and came home every day covered in soot and sweat. He was a good man but hard. The kind of man who believed in right and wrong with no gray areas in between. I knew, even as a child, that what I was doing would be incomprehensible to him. Unacceptable. So I learned to hide. I became very good at it. High school was torture. Not because anyone suspected anything about me. In fact, it was the opposite. I was so careful, so controlled, that I became invisible. I played baseball because it was expected. I dated girls because it was normal. I did everything right, and every single day felt like I was suffocating. There was one girl, though, during my junior year. Her name was Patricia. She was quiet like me, spent most of her time in the library. We became friends first, then started dating. Nothing serious, just movies and school dances. But Patricia was different. She wore her grandmother's vintage dresses to school when everyone else wore bell-bottoms and tie-dye. She didn't care what people thought. One day, we were studying at her house, and she pulled out this old trunk from her grandmother's attic. It was filled with clothes from the 1940s. Beautiful, elegant dresses with full skirts and fitted waists. She tried several on, modeling them for me, laughing. Then she said something I've never forgotten. "You know, it's funny, Richard. These dresses would probably look better on you than me. You have the frame for them." My blood went cold. Did she know? Had I given myself away somehow? But when I looked at her face, there was no mockery there. Just honest observation. I laughed it off, made some joke I don't remember. But that comment haunted me for years. The idea that someone could see something in me that I worked so hard to conceal. Patricia and I broke up the next year when I went off to college. We stayed friends, exchanged a few letters, but eventually lost touch. I often wonder what would have happened if I'd been brave enough to be honest with her. But I wasn't brave. Not then. College should have been my time to explore, to figure out who I was away from my family and small-town expectations. But I was too afraid. I lived in a dormitory with 3 other guys, none of whom I could trust with something like this. I threw myself into my studies, majored in accounting, and graduated without incident. Without living. After graduation, I moved to Philadelphia and got a job at a firm downtown. I shared an apartment with 2 roommates for the first year. Then, finally, at age 23, I got my own place. A small studio apartment in a not great neighborhood, but it was mine. All mine. That's when things changed. For the first time in my life, I had privacy. Complete privacy. No parents, no siblings, no roommates. Just me and 4 walls and a door I could lock. Within a week of moving in, I went to a thrift store on the other side of town where nobody would recognize me. I bought 3 dresses, a pair of shoes, and a handbag. I paid in cash and walked out feeling like I'd just robbed a bank. That night, alone in my apartment, I put on one of those dresses for the first time since I was a teenager. It was a simple green shift dress, probably from the early 70s, based on the style. It fit reasonably well. I didn't have a full-length mirror yet, so I stood on my bed to see myself in the mirror above my dresser. And I cried. I cried because I was happy. Because I felt right. Because for the first time in over a decade, I felt like myself. But I also cried because I knew this could never be more than a secret. That this was as good as it would ever get. A locked apartment, cheap thrift store clothes, and the constant fear of discovery. For the next 8 years, that was my life. I worked my accounting job during the day, went on occasional dates with women to maintain appearances, and spent my evenings alone in my apartment exploring this hidden part of myself. I got better at it. Learned about makeup from magazines. Bought a wig. Figured out what styles worked for my body type. But it was always secret. Always shameful. Always lonely. I thought that was how it would always be. That I would live this double life forever, never fully myself in either version. Then I met Catherine. I was 31. Catherine was 28. We met at a work conference, of all places. She worked for a competing firm, and we ended up sitting next to each other during a particularly boring seminar on tax law changes. She made a sarcastic comment under her breath about the presenters to pay, and I snorted with laughter. We were both asked to leave. We got coffee instead, skipped the rest of the conference, and talked for 6 hours. She was brilliant, funny, and completely unpretentious despite coming from money. Her family owned a chain of furniture stores. She could have lived off trust fund money her whole life, but chose to work because, as she put it, she'd rather die than spend her days playing tennis at the country club. We started dating. Within 6 months, we were serious. Within a year, she proposed to me. Yes, she proposed. We were at her apartment and she just looked at me and said, "I think we should get married. Don't you?" I said yes before I even thought about it. We got married 3 months later in a small ceremony. Her family wasn't thrilled that she was marrying an accountant from a working-class background, but they were polite about it. My family was just relieved I was finally settling down. My mother had started to worry I might be one of those confirmed bachelors, which was her way of saying something she couldn't say out loud. The first year of marriage was wonderful. Catherine was an amazing partner. We laughed constantly, traveled when we could afford it, and built a life together. But I was still hiding. Still keeping that one enormous secret locked away. I'd given up my studio apartment when we got married and moved into Catherine's larger place. I got rid of all my clothes, my makeup, everything. I told myself marriage meant putting away childish things. That being a husband meant being a man, full stop, no questions, no complications. I convinced myself I could do it. That love would be enough to make the other part of me disappear. It wasn't enough. By our second anniversary, I was miserable. Not because of Catherine. She was perfect. But I felt like I was dying from the inside out. I'd gained weight from stress. I was irritable and distant. I started working late just to avoid going home, because being home meant being reminded of everything I'd given up. Catherine knew something was wrong, but didn't know what. We started arguing about stupid things. The kind of arguments that aren't really about the dishes or the bills or whose turn it is to do the laundry. One night, after a particularly bad argument about something ridiculous, I couldn't take it anymore. I was going to tell her. Get it over with. Let her divorce me. At least then I'd be free to go back to my lonely, but honest life. We were sitting at the kitchen table. It was late, maybe 11 at night. She was drinking tea. I was trying to find the courage to speak. Catherine, there's something I need to tell you. I started. She looked up at me with those intelligent brown eyes. Okay. It's going to sound crazy. You're going to think I don't know what you're going to think. But I can't keep hiding it anymore. She set down her tea. Richard, are you having an affair?
What?
No. God, no. Are you sick? No, I'm not sick. At least I don't think so. Though maybe I am. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I was rambling, sweating, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. Just tell me, she said quietly.
So I did.
I told her everything. About being 7 years old and my aunt's cardigan. About high school and college and the thrift store dresses. About the 8 years I spent alone in that studio apartment being someone I couldn't be anywhere else. About giving it all up when we got married and how it was killing me to pretend anymore. I couldn't look at her while I talked. I stared at my hands on the table, at my wedding ring, at the grain of the wood. Anything but her face. When I finished, there was silence. Long, horrible silence. Then she said, "That's it? That's the big secret." I looked up. She wasn't angry. She wasn't disgusted. She looked almost relieved. You thought I was having an affair or dying, and instead you're telling me you like to wear dresses sometimes? She actually smiled. Richard, that's not a problem. That's just who you are. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're not upset? Upset about what? That you've been miserable trying to hide something from me? Yeah, I'm upset about that. But upset that you like wearing women's clothes? Why would I be upset about that? Because it's not normal. Because I'm your husband and husbands don't. Husbands don't what? Get to be themselves? That's ridiculous. She reached across the table and took my hand. Listen to me. I married you because of who you are, not because you fit some ridiculous definition of what a man is supposed to be. If wearing dresses makes you happy, then I want you to wear dresses. I want you to be happy. That was the moment my life changed. Not when I first put on a dress. Not when I moved into my own apartment. But right there, at my kitchen table, when my wife told me I was allowed to be myself. But accepting it intellectually and actually doing something about it were two different things. I was still terrified. What if she changed her mind? What if she was just being nice but secretly found me repulsive? What if this destroyed our marriage? Catherine, being Catherine, decided to take matters into her own hands. The next Saturday, she woke me up early. Get dressed, she said. We're going shopping. Shopping for what?
For you.
The real you. We're going to get you some proper clothes instead of whatever sad thrift store items you've been hiding in. I was mortified. Catherine, I can't just walk into a store and buy women's clothes. Why not? Because people will see. They'll know. Know what? That you're buying clothes? Richard, people buy clothes for other people all the time. Nobody is going to care. And even if they do, so what? Are you planning to see these people again? Do you care what a sales clerk at a department store thinks about you? She had a point, but I was still paralyzed with fear. This is where Catherine did something that, at the time, seemed almost aggressive. Looking back now, I realize it was the kindest thing anyone had ever done for me. She took control. Okay, Here's what's going to happen, she said in a tone that left no room for argument. You and I are going shopping today. I'm going to help you pick out clothes that actually fit you and look nice. We're going to get you some proper shoes, not whatever worn-out things you probably had before. And we're going to do this right. No more hiding, no more shame, no more pretending. Starting today, you get to be yourself. In this house, you get to be completely, fully yourself. Do you understand? I nodded, too overwhelmed to speak.
Good.
Now get in the shower. We're leaving in 30 minutes. That trip to the mall was one of the most terrifying and exhilarating experiences of my life. Catherine was fearless. She walked into stores like she owned them, pulled dresses off racks, held them up to me to check sizes, asked sales associates for help like this was the most normal thing in the world. My husband is looking for some dresses, she'd say casually, and I wanted to disappear into the floor. But nobody cared. Or if they did, they hid it behind professional courtesy. The sales associates were helpful, suggested sizes and styles, treated me like any other customer. We went to 4 different stores that day. By the end, I had 3 new dresses, 2 skirts, several blouses, a pair of comfortable shoes, and a handbag Catherine insisted I needed. We spent money I thought we couldn't afford, but Catherine waved off my concerns. This is an investment in your happiness, she said. That's priceless. When we got home, Catherine wasn't done. Okay, go put something on. Let's see how it looks.
Now.
Yes, now. When did you think you were going to wear these things? Never? That defeats the entire purpose. So I went into the bedroom and put on one of the new dresses. It was navy blue with small white polka dots, a fitted waist, and a skirt that fell just below my knees. It fit perfectly because Catherine had made sure of that. I looked at myself in the mirror, and for the first time, I wasn't looking at someone in a costume. I was looking at someone in clothes that actually fit, that looked good, that felt right. When I came out of the bedroom, Catherine was waiting in the living room. She looked up and smiled.
See?
I knew that color would look good on you. How does it feel? Good, I said quietly. Really good. Then that's what matters.
Now sit down.
We need to talk about some things. I sat, nervous again. Was this where she told me there were limits? Rules? Conditions? You're going to want to learn about makeup, she said. And probably get a wig until you decide if you want to grow your hair out. And we need to think about a name for you when you're dressed like this. Because I'm not calling you Richard when you clearly aren't being Richard. That doesn't make sense. I just stared at her, unable to process that this was really happening. What do you think? She asked. What name feels right to you? I'd thought about this for years, actually. Tried on different names in my head during those lonely nights in my old apartment. But I'd never said any of them out loud. Victoria, I said finally. I've always liked the name Victoria. Catherine smiled. Victoria. That's beautiful. It suits you. And just like that, Victoria became real. Not just a fantasy or a secret, but an actual person with a name and clothes and a wife who accepted her. The next few months were a revelation. Catherine helped me learn about makeup, though I was terrible at it at first. She taught me about skincare, about how to walk in heels, about 1,000 little things I'd never known. She bought me books and magazines. She took me to get my ears pierced, which seemed like a small thing, but felt monumental. Most importantly, she made space for Victoria in our life. She'd come home from work and ask, "Is Richard home?" Or, "Is Victoria joining me for dinner tonight?" She bought 2 sets of photo albums, one for Richard's life and one for Victoria's. She treated Victoria like a real person, not like a costume I put on. But it was all still private, still confined to our home. I wasn't ready for anything else, and Catherine didn't push. She'd made our home a safe space, and that felt like enough. Then everything changed again. It was a Friday evening, about 6 months after my confession. Catherine had been acting strange all week, excited about something but refusing to tell me what. When she got home that night, she was practically bouncing. "Pack a bag," she said. "We're going away for the weekend." "Going where?" "It's a surprise. Just trust me. And Victoria should pack, not Richard. Bring nice outfits, makeup, everything. You won't need any of Richard's clothes except for the drive there. My stomach dropped. Catherine, what did you do? I found a place. A bed and breakfast about 2 hours from here. It's run by a woman named Dorothy, who caters specifically to people like you. People like us, I should say. It's completely safe and private. We have a reservation for the whole weekend. I can't, I said automatically. I can't go out there. People will see. People who understand will see. People who won't judge you. Dorothy assured me it's a welcoming space. Richard, you've been Victoria in this apartment for 6 months now. Don't you want to be her somewhere else? Somewhere beautiful? Don't you want to go outside as yourself?
Of course I wanted that.
I dreamed about it for decades. But the fear was overwhelming. Catherine stepped closer, took both my hands. I'm not going to force you. If you really don't want to go, we won't. But I think you're ready for this. I think you need this. And I'll be with you every step of the way. You won't be alone. I was crying before I realized it. I'm so scared. I know. But that's okay. We'll be scared together, and then we'll do it anyway. That's how Catherine was. Once she decided something was right, she made it happen. She took control in the best possible way. Not controlling like demanding or manipulative, but like a ship's captain navigating through a storm. Steady, confident, sure of the destination even when I couldn't see it. We left Saturday morning. I drove as Richard, wearing jeans and a polo shirt, my stomach in knots the entire 2 hours. The bed and breakfast was in a small town in the mountains, one of those places that looked like it belonged on a postcard. Catherine had been right to call it beautiful. Dorothy met us at the door. She was in her 60s, with short silver hair and a warm smile. You must be Catherine and Richard, she said, shaking our hands. Welcome.
Come in, come in.
You're my only guests this weekend, so you'll have the place to yourselves. She showed us to our room on the 2nd floor. It was lovely, with a 4-poster bed, antique furniture, and a view of the mountains. When Dorothy left us alone, I sat on the edge of the bed, still paralyzed. Take your time, Catherine said. There's no rush. Get comfortable. It took me an hour to work up the courage to change. But finally I did. I put on a simple dress, did my makeup carefully, put on my wig. Catherine helped me with my jewelry and shoes. When I looked in the mirror, Victoria looked back. Ready? Catherine asked.
No.
But let's do it anyway. We went downstairs for dinner. Dorothy had prepared a meal in the dining room. When she saw me, she smiled just as warmly as before. Victoria, you look lovely.
Please sit down.
Dinner is ready. She used my name. This stranger used my name without hesitation, without mockery, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I almost started crying right there. That weekend was magical. We walked around the property, had meals together, sat by the fireplace in the evening. Dorothy treated me exactly like she would any other guest. We met her partner, Margaret, who was equally kind. They told us about other guests they'd hosted over the years, people from all walks of life who came to their bed and breakfast to be themselves safely. This world isn't always kind to people who are different, Dorothy said Sunday morning over breakfast. But that doesn't mean you have to hide. It just means you have to find your people. Find the places where you can be yourself. They exist. I promise you. Driving home Sunday afternoon, I was exhausted and exhilarated. I'd done it. I'd been Victoria outside of my apartment. In the real world. And nothing bad had happened. The world hadn't ended. I hadn't been attacked or mocked or rejected. How do you feel?
Catherine asked.
Like I can breathe, I said. For the first time in my whole life, I feel like I can actually breathe. Catherine smiled and squeezed my hand. Good. Because this is just the beginning. She was right. Over the next 2 years, Catherine gradually expanded my world. She found online support groups, which were just becoming a thing in the late 90s. She connected me with other people going through similar journeys. She took me shopping more often, not hiding anymore, but treating it like the normal activity it should have been all along. She also started making decisions about when and where Victoria could exist. At first, I was resistant to this. It felt like she was controlling my life. But slowly, I realized she wasn't controlling me. She was giving me permission. Permission I apparently needed from someone else because I couldn't give it to myself. Victoria is coming to my office holiday party, she announced one December evening.
What? No.
Catherine, I can't. Those are your coworkers. Those are people who've heard me talk about my spouse for years and never actually met you. Richard has been to one party in 5 years of marriage and spent the whole time hiding in the corner. Victoria is going to come, and Victoria is going to have fun, and people are going to meet the person I'm actually married to. They'll know. I protested weakly. Know what? That you're wearing a dress? So what? Half the women there will also be wearing dresses. You think you're the only tall woman in the world? The only woman with strong features? Victoria, look at me. She waited until I met her eyes. Nobody is going to care. And if they do, they can find a new party. This is my workplace and you're my spouse, and that's that. So I went. I was terrified. But I went. And Catherine was right. Some people clearly noticed I was transgender. I could see it in their faces, the double take, the quick reassessment. But nobody said anything mean. Most people were friendly. A few went out of their way to be welcoming in a way that let me know they understood and approved. One woman named Jennifer spent an hour talking to me about vintage fashion, which was my favorite topic. By the end of the night, I was actually enjoying myself. Catherine found me laughing with a group of her colleagues and smiled in this knowing way that said, I told you so without words. That became the pattern. Catherine would decide I was ready for something, would inform me it was happening, and I'd panic and resist, and then ultimately discover she was right. She took control of pushing me forward because I would have stayed stuck forever if left to my own devices. She signed us up for a transgender support group that met monthly. She convinced me to grow my hair out instead of relying on wigs. She helped me change my name legally, which was a complicated and emotionally overwhelming process. She held my hand through every step. By our 10th wedding anniversary, I was living as Victoria full-time. I transitioned at work, which was terrifying but went better than expected. I'd reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I'd built a life that felt authentic. But I want to be honest about something. This wasn't all easy. There were hard days. Days when I got stared at in public. Days when I faced discrimination or cruelty. Days when I questioned whether this was all worth it. There was an incident at a restaurant where a man made loud comments about me to his friends while I was trying to eat dinner. Catherine stood up, walked over to his table, and said in a voice loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear, "My wife and I are trying to enjoy our meal. If you have something to say it to our faces like an adult, or shut up and mind your own business." The man backed down. The manager apologized and comped our meal. But I cried in the car on the way home, frustrated and hurt. "I'm sorry," Catherine said. "I'm sorry people are cruel. I'm sorry the world isn't better than this." "Maybe I shouldn't have transitioned," I said. "Maybe this was a mistake." Catherine pulled over to the side of the road and turned to face me. "Look at me. Victoria, look at me." I did. That man is an idiot and a coward. His opinion means nothing. Do you remember what you were like before? You were dying. Slowly, quietly dying inside. Now you're living. Really living. Yes, sometimes living means dealing with idiots. But it also means being yourself. Feeling joy. Feeling free. That man gets none of that. You do. So no, this wasn't a mistake. This was the bravest thing you've ever done. That's who Catherine was. My champion, my advocate, my partner. But more than that, she was the person who took control when I was too afraid to take it myself. Who saw what I needed before I knew how to ask for it. Who pushed me to become the person I was always meant to be. We're older now. I'm 63, Catherine is 60. We've been married for 32 years, and I've been living as Victoria for over 2 decades. Our lives are quieter now than they used to be. We both retired early. We travel when we want to spend time with friends, work in our garden. People sometimes ask me when I knew I was transgender. The truth is, I've always known. But knowing and accepting are different things. accepting, and living are different things still. I needed Catherine to bridge those gaps for me. I needed her to take control when I couldn't. Some people might think that makes me weak, that I should have been able to do this on my own.
But I don't see it that way.
Strength isn't doing everything alone. Strength is accepting help when you need it. Strength is allowing someone who loves you to see you at your most vulnerable and still choosing to trust them. Catherine gave me that. She saw me at my lowest, my most afraid, my most broken, and she said, I see you, I love you, and I'm going to help you be free. Then she did exactly that. Not everyone will have a Catherine in their life. I'm lucky beyond measure. But I think the lesson still applies. Sometimes we need someone to take control when we're paralyzed by fear. Sometimes we need someone to push us toward the life we deserve but are too afraid to reach for. Sometimes we need to trust that the people who love us might know what we need better than we do. If you're watching this and you're hiding some part of yourself, if you're living a half-life because you're afraid of what might happen if people knew the truth about you, I want you to hear this. You deserve to be whole. You deserve to be yourself. You deserve to stop hiding. It might not happen all at once. It might take years. It took me 63 years to get to where I am now. But every step toward authenticity is worth it. Every moment of courage, no matter how small, matters. And if you're lucky enough to have someone in your life who sees you, really sees you, and loves you anyway, let them help you. Let them take control when you need it. Let them push you toward freedom. You don't have to do this alone. I didn't. And that made all the difference. Catherine walks into the room as I'm finishing this recording. She's holding 2 cups of tea, her gray hair catching the afternoon light. She's still the most beautiful person I've ever known. She hands me a cup and sits down next to me. Almost done, she asks. Just finishing up. Good. Because I've been thinking. There's a concert next month. That jazz singer you love is performing. We should go. I already bought tickets. I smile because of course she did. 32 years later, Catherine is still taking control, still pushing me forward, still making sure I live my life fully instead of letting fear hold me back. Okay, I say, let's go. She smiles back. I knew you'd say yes. And she's right.
She always is.
Thank you for listening to my story. I know it was long, but some stories can't be told quickly. If you made it this far, I appreciate you taking the time to hear about my journey. If this resonated with you, if something in my experience reflected something in yours, please leave a comment. Let's build a community where people don't have to hide, where people don't have to spend decades being afraid. Life is too short to live it as someone you're not. Trust me, I wasted too many years. Don't waste yours. Be yourself. Find your people. Let yourself be loved. And if you need someone to take control and guide you toward the life you deserve, let them. Sometimes that's the bravest thing you can do. This is Victoria, signing off. Be kind to yourselves out there. And to each other. We're all just trying to figure out who we are and find the courage to be it.
Thank you.